Those are.
Happy birthday.
How did you know? You're a Facebook person. Yes, yes. Older and older.
And wiser, right?
Well, I'm maybe more and more demented enough to think I'm wise.
Yeah.
I need to ask John about something. You and Steve found a carcass from a pocket like
That's right. In our backyard.
okay, yeah, I heard that from another. Is Lori here? Lori Osborne?
Yeah. And that guy,
She is, I heard something.
Jack, you know Jack?
Yeah, the cougar hunter.
Yeah.
The anonymous
He
cougar
came
hunter
over and
story,
he
yeah.
tracked, and then he installed a camera.
Because the DNR does not want us setting them up in the what's it, the state park. The state park,
Right,
yeah.
right. But he thinks this is what was the cover hammer is now older, pushing further afield than it should.
Yeah, there's enough anecdotal stuff out there.
Yeah.
That absolutely proves
I mean,
they can't
I saw
do
the
perfect,
track,
but,
and cougar tracks.
yeah, they're big cats, and they
Don't
don't
have claws.
So they had the claws.
Claws are
Tracks.
cat.
Oh, they had the claws out.
No, the tracks don't have the claws.
Well, yeah, you don't put them in. You know, cats pull them in. Sure.
Coyotes. I mean, whatever.
Well, Jack was going to get mad with me after my story. But, he wanted to bring concrete like a
Like he wanted to get DNA.
scan sample or something like that. Which is what the DNR
But he didn't. It wasn't successful in that sense.
Well, but yeah, the stories out there, people are looking, and the evidence, anecdotal as it may be, I don't want to let my daughter, or I don't want to send them out.
Remember, just a short time.
Yeah.
Know what's happening across from the entrance to North Shore.
Yeah, that's a housing.
Is it for sure? Okay.
But then they dug out a pond.
Yeah.
They just never permit.
Oh.
Gallery.
Oh, well,
I haven't heard from them. They don't know for sure that
you've got to have a permit for.
Yeah, that's just all of a sudden there.
Yeah, it's like, I could believe it in a week,
But six houses.
I heard it water.
Most recent information I have, 5-year road villages are set to expire in 2021 and 2013. Did I have that right? Okay, I looked at the website and it said, last one I saw, dated was 2018. Well, 2018 said passed. As I recall, November. I'm trying to double check because I wanted to do something on that. I'll check. Yeah. They've been around a long time. Chris, do you know the 5-year road villages have been extended for 2021 and 2013? Or excuse me, 2021, 2023. We did the voters approve it in November? Did it come up for it's been November, yeah. I believe that's it. Yeah, I was going to say, I don't recall it failing, and they've always gone through pretty pro forma. And I checked the website, it said 2018. And that was yeah. Okay, yeah.
I thought about it.
Oh, really? Kind of a minor thing, but it's technical details, and if you get it wrong, They go,
He did. Especially when he came in. And I got one out to my car.
I mean, they just don't have it.
We can. Okay, I will call the regular board meeting of the Saugatuck Township Board to order. This is from Wednesday, March 6, 2019 at 6 o'clock. Note that all are present except for the vacant trustee position. And I'd ask you to stand and join me in the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll now open up the meeting to public comments, starting with the first row. Second row. Third row. Next row. Does anybody want to make a public comment at the outset of the meeting? If not, we'll go ahead and close that portion of the meeting and move on to the approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or removal of items requested?
No.
If not, I'll entertain a motion to
I
adopt.
move to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll support.
Any discussion? There being none, all in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No. Motion carried. Move on to approval of invoices. And we have some additional invoices that were submitted after the packets were distributed.
Is this Dickinson and Rice for this month only, right, or, I mean,
Last month.
January's.
January, okay.
And I thought I saw a check.
I thought I saw one in there too. Maybe I was,
That was for December.
oh, okay.
So I would move that we approve the invoices in a total of $24,953.10. Got a second?
Second,
Discussion.
I just would like us to be very aware and point out that our legal fees, Dickinson Wright and Curcio, the two lawyers we work with, we see an additional $6,000 here, and I believe now since November it's probably around a total of $15,000 we've spent. I just want us to be cognizant of that and keep our eye on it because it is tending to run over budget. I know there've been some very legitimate needs for this, but I just want us to keep an eye on that and hope that number comes down in February, or March rather, and February. We haven't seen that yet.
Any other questions, discussion? There being none, all those in favor state by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Move on to treasurer's report.
Yes, and one of the things we just voted on, as you know now, the board is supposed to approve our disbursement payments, which are the obligations as we collect tax that we pay back to the school district and the library, interurban. One of those was in there. Because we're in the end run right now, there is an additional disbursement that I made this week. And I'm going to hand that out. So if have that in front of them. Just to be aware that the way it works, the tax laws, by next Friday, March 15th, we need to have dispersed 90% of our obligation from the receipts that have come in, and we have until April 1st then to make a final payment to pay all these out. Right now, our tax bank account balance today, which would not reflect the $2 million that was made, is probably around $400,000, which is good because that needs to be paid down to meet our obligations. I don't know if we need to have a separate vote on the second one, but maybe we should. I'd like to entertain a motion that we approve the disbursements made this week on March 4th to fulfill our tax receipt and payment obligations.
I'll second that.
So why are we doing this now? We've never done it before. We're doing it because you said we need to do it, or?
Yeah, no, I had reported last month, that was something I learned at MTA training, that just as checks and invoices are approved by the board, and these are big payments, so the board needs to be aware, and it is the law that the board approves.
So how do we certify revenues, like in Cal Lake and that? Where do we find those and certify that they're accounted for? And also state share revenue, how do we make sure that's accounted for? Is that in the general ledger? Or?
No, well, yeah, that will be in the general ledger. That's
okay.
A different issue, and these are strictly the disbursements, the obligations of who we share our tax revenue with.
So you don't keep a separate journal for that? That's just in the general ledger?
That's my understanding, but I can check into that for you. But it's not something that the board has to approve, but it's obviously something we can answer and look to as needed if this inquiry. You seconded it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor state by saying yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Let's go to minutes. January 2nd, this was a special meeting. They had a closed session. We're just going to approve the minutes of the special meeting, open and closed. The closed session meeting minutes are sealed. I would move that we accept and approve the minutes of the January 2nd, 2019 special meeting as presented.
I second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor state by saying yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Next we have the minutes of February 6th. This was a regular meeting, obviously more substantial. I'd like to note that Abby's doing a phenomenal job capturing the content of these meetings.
You really are, Abby. It's wonderful. Very good. I read it thoroughly, looking for a mistake, and I couldn't
All
find
there,
one.
very good.
I found a tiny one.
What?
Oh, nail her.
Where's the posters? The page is that number, but on page 4, the top of the page says Jim Searing, and then it says Open Board Report. The fourth line up from the bottom that begins that there is say 5 applicants, then it reads we should be interviewing. I think we just need to insert that we should do the interviewing at a special meeting or conduct them.
Yeah.
I said it was very tiny. It was just a missing.
I think that you just were out to get me. Something.
I'm known for my proofreading.
Yeah, by me.
That's all I saw. I don't know. Anyone else?
So did we have a motion to accept?
No, I make a motion that we accept the January 6th. Is that what it was?
February.
Okay, February 6th.
I'll second. Any discussion? All those in favor state by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Correspondence. You have some correspondence from Lakeshore Advantage. They met with Natalie and I. They now have the contract for Allegan County. They're involved in economic development. I'd like to just take a look at that. If there's an interest, they would like to come back and present to the board. and we can do so if we think it's necessary.
I think that would be great to have them come and present to us. I had a couple comments on the letter, and one was, I'd like to hear more explicitly what we would expect in our interest for the $1,875 fee. And I think, I've had meetings in the past and recently with the Right Place, which is the Michigan Economic Development Corporation's arm in Grand Rapids, and they are also becoming more active in Allegheny County. So this is all good, but I'd like to hear more from them, because in the past, Lakeshore Advantage has been more focused northernly in Holland and Zealand, but obviously they're reaching out too, so I would think it'd be great to have them.
Or if you don't want to wait, you can just call Greg King. He is the new guy, and he's really sharp, and he's got all those answers for you, if you want to.
Sure.
Okay, next is trustee appointment policy change. Abby, Natalie's doing her job and has been looking into policies and is recommending this change to the appointment policy, which I agree with. And I would move that we adopt the revised, or what will be our new policy of appointment to, this is to township board or all appointments?
Just the township.
Just township board. So what about the one for all appointments? That still remains?
We'll have to change that.
Okay, then we change that. So for right now, this is a new policy, and it's the policy of appointments to township board. And I move that we adopt it as
I'll second
presented.
that.
Any discussion?
I just thank you for all your work on this, Natalie, and for, reaching out to a lot of people and make sure that you dotted your I's and crossed your T's and got all the, legal information that was necessary. So thanks for your hard work on this.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion? There being none, all those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. So now we're going to move into the trustee interview and appointment phase. This is the first time we have done this, so bear with us. We're going to do the best we can. Do we have all 4 candidates here? Do we know?
Joe is,
I believe we have 3.
Okay, so we have 3 candidates here. And so what I think would be appropriate is to let each come up to the mic and just kind of introduce yourselves to us and have a seat so that the public knows who you are. And we'll start out with Mary.
Hello. I'm Mary Sexy. I'm a resident of Saugatuck Township for about 5 years now. And I sent a letter along with the application that states my qualifications and background and that sort of thing. But just to sum it up, I am an attorney by training. I don't normally lead with that, but it's true. Practiced law in private law practice for about 25 years. And now I'm a business owner. My partner and I own several businesses. We have a small office in Holland, but we also have a restaurant. We are part owners of the Coast Restaurant that just opened in downtown Saugatuck. And we also own some rental properties in Douglas, Saugatuck, and Saugatuck Township. So having been here permanently for a few years now, I feel like I am ready to sort of help out where needed, and I've always had an interest in not politics, yes, but knowing that it takes a lot of work from the ground up with people like yourselves that are committed to issues and making sure that we're doing things the right way. So I decided to throw my hat in the ring to see if I might be a good candidate to fill the position and help out. So, if you have questions of me, I don't know if you want me to sit down.
Just have a seat up here, Rita. Sit up.
Really close.
And next we'll have Lori come up. Lori?
Hi, I'm Lori Gosselin. I've been coming up to this area since the mid-70s and decided to relocate here from Illinois about 7 years ago. And about that time, I decided to throw my hat in the ring for a trustee position. I think it was a good thing that I did win at that time, though I felt pretty good about the election and how it was run. Because I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot in being a member of the community, participating in making comments and being aware of what's been going on in the community, and, now I'm on the Parks Commission and really enjoying that process as well. As a professional, I've had, more training type background. I can look at things from a very large picture, and I can drill down and explain things from a variety of different ways, whether that would be useful in this instance or not. That's more where my expertise lies. I lost my train of thought. Let's see. Yeah, so I'm a big picture thinker. I like working in committee on different things. I feel very strongly planted in this community, and I feel like my schedule is open at this time to allow me to contribute more and to understand better how things work and see what my level of contribution can be. So that's where I come from.
Great. Thank you. Now we have the seat, and finally we have Brenda.
The microphone. When Natalie emailed that we should prepare 3 to 5 minutes, so that's what I did. Is this the time that I do that? Yes? Yes.
Take
Okay.
as much time as you need.
I don't always do what I told. In grant writing, we used to tell people when they ask for advice, there's 3 pieces of advice. Follow directions, follow the directions, and follow directions. So that's what I'm doing. I'd like to thank those who encouraged me to apply and who've supported me in many ways. I'm deeply humbled. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
One of my favorite jobs was managing a small credit union. We had assets of $5 million. The members were all colleagues at College of DuPage and the Morton Arboretum in Illinois. The motto of credit unions at that time, small credit unions, was, small private, federal, was people helping people, upon which we modeled all of our services. We followed strict federal regulations, and yet in terms of the services we provided, we were able to serve people on a case-by-case basis. Imagine my surprise when I learned, and I assume you guys know this, that the Michigan Township's motto is neighbors serving neighbors. While managing the credit union, I developed a thorough understanding of nonprofit and government boards, as well as budgets and finances. But more importantly, I learned about serving people. I developed keen interpersonal skills of empathy, listening, discerning, and acting. My degree is in social and behavioral sciences, and I learned how well my gifts match both my education and my business training. My husband and I have owned a home here for 24 years, but our family has been here much longer. We made it our permanent home a year and a half ago when we retired, and that's when I started attending the board meetings. I quickly became aware that there were some issues facing the township and there was a great need for change. The first trustee responsibility mentioned in your appointment packet is the ability to demonstrate knowledge about the township. I gained a unique perspective from the point of view of constituents when I was campaigning for the trustee November election. I was reminded of the importance of listening. I'm fortunate to be retired, but my time is no less valuable than it was before. I made committing to this community a priority when we moved here and became involved in several ways, which includes attending these meetings as well as some of the PC meetings. I spoke to Trustee Lurie a couple of days ago as he was interviewing candidates. He told me that the one responsibility of this position was to vote, which seems like a no-brainer, right? But no, it involves being here at meetings and not abstaining unless for conflict of interest reasons. It involves research and talking to constituents to discern how they feel about issues. There is so much to understand. I mean, just look at today's board packet. I learned in former elected positions, I learned how to ensure that the democratic process was always followed regardless of my personal opinion. I made decisions based on critical thinking, facts, and constituent input. I would use the same process to make sound votes critical to the well-being of the township. After the credit union, I worked in fundraising, which included grant writing. We collaborated college-wide with every job position and classification. Collaboration is key to developing great relationships with our local cities and townships. I retired from College of DuPage as a scholarship coordinator and as a financial aid officer. At that time, the college was the largest in the country with over 30,000 students. I redesigned the entire scholarship program, I computerized it, and then I led the decision-making process. I also administered the veterans programs, which, along with serving populations like the Lost Boys of the Sudan and homeless students, I found very rewarding and also very challenging. It took approximately 2 years to master that job. We quantified the amount of time jobs took to master to help determine appropriate salaries. I mention this because there have been comments about the newness, the greenness of our newest trustees. Anytime you start a new job or an elected position, it's all new. Like the current trustees, I bring a breadth of transferable skills, which include both financial experience and emotional intelligence. Also, like the new trustees, I shorten this learning curve by attending meetings and learning current issues. The new trustees have devoted unexpectedly large amounts of time in terms of learning and special meetings to transition this township to new leadership. I understand the commitment of time and energy. I came to be spent, not saved. Trustee Rorick also asked me what I plan to do as a trustee, to which I responded, I have no set plans or agendas. I will do whatever is needed. After spending much of my adult life here, I've learned that the township is comprised of a generosity of spirit demonstrated to community and family members, especially my niece Amber, who I think most of you know. I've learned that the generosity of this place transcends all political affiliations. The great thing about the township is most issues are nonpartisan, and decisions are based on what is best for the citizens. It would be an honor to serve as a trustee and give me a way to pay that generosity forward. I look forward to the trustees' vote, knowing they will choose, you will choose, the most qualified and best fit for the township as neighbors serving neighbors.
Thank you. Now we'll move into the interview part, and John, I'll let you start with the first question.
Just move a couple of mics around. Before I ask my question, I'd like to thank all of you very, very deeply. I think we are so lucky that we had 4 candidates come forward, all very qualified. I've met with all of them and had phone conversations, and I can't thank you enough. And whatever happens tonight, I hope you'll stay engaged and committed with us. There are other commission openings coming up this year, and in about a year and a half, there's another election. Having said that, and again, I cannot thank you enough. I'm very overjoyed with the quality and the people that have stepped forward. So, let me ask you if you could share 1 or 2 township-related issues that you would like to see get more attention from the board than maybe have already.
Can I just interject just a second? So you would start with probably Mary,
right,
and then the next question will start with
Lori.
Right. So we'll round robin, so it's there.
Yep, that's it. So I guess we'll start with Mary.
Sorry.
1 or 2 issues that maybe we should be spending more time on.
Yeah, so I would say that I know that the medical marijuana ordinance has been something that you've spent a good deal of time on. I understand it's almost over the goal line, so to speak. I have a feeling that even though there has been a good bit of time on it, it's going to have to do it well. It's going to require continued attention to that. I think it's incredibly important to the township that the implementation part of that be looked after. And so I would say that would be a key thing as you would move forward, the trustees, to make sure that that a lot of attention, I just imagine that's what's going to be necessary. The other thing that comes to mind is, as there is continued development along the coast, along the North Shore, there's going to be some issues there that are going to continue to require the attention. Again, these are already pretty significant issues, but in terms of what is needed in the township, those are 2 things that pop into my mind. And by the way, when I stood up, I thought you wanted me to introduce myself, so, but I'm hoping that my letter talked to my qualifications well enough, so.
Absolutely.
Well, there's, the way I understood the the question, and correct me if I'm wrong, I thought that you were asking what would we as individuals bring, or what we think needs more attention, and, one of my personal interests is, I'm helping start a chapter of Citizens Climate Lobby, which is creates political will towards, addressing climate change. And I've also got sort of a green bent to a lot of the things that I do, and I think there are a lot of areas that we could explore, for both business opportunities and attracting, good quality jobs to the area. But also it's kind of our civil responsibility to start thinking in these ways, and I don't think that's an area that's really been explored. Something that I brought to the board, the last board was, that if there is going to be development at the corner of 65th, Blue Star, and 135th, that there really needs to be some kind of action that happens there. And through research that I've been doing, it seemed like a roundabout, and I know the dreaded roundabout, but it would be a really good way to have continuous movement, safe turning. And since I do it on a multiple time a day, regular basis, that's one area that I think needs to be revisited.
So, you asked if there was an area that you could spend more time on, or the board should spend more time on. Based on what I've seen, I think you guys have spent a great amount of time on the issues. For example, Trustee Rourke's comments at the PC meeting, and I'm sure that you will be dealing with that, or that's been incorporated, everything that he brought up that night about the marijuana facility is excellent questions. And then the other area that I am very interested in is, because I drive by it every day, is the sand mining. I do believe you have spent a lot of time on that, but I thought that last meeting when the person from Top Grade, as well as, I can't think of her name, the person from the neighborhood, first of all, they collaborated so well together. He corroborated a lot of the things that she said. I mean, to me it was amazing, but she has a lot of lessons learned for the future, for future sand mining. So I think that would be a good thing to follow up on and measure outcomes and do all that kind of stuff. And then the third thing I am interested in is the bike trail, simply because Chris Rory comes from Wheaton, I come from Glen Ellen, and I spent so much time on the Illinois Prairie Path, and it has brought so much good to the Chicago and DuPage County area. So that's something that I would like to see us further work on. I know right now it's kind of maybe dead in the water, so, yeah.
Okay, the next question comes from Stacy, and we'll start out with Lori.
I'm curious about, that's actually what I was gonna ask about, is bike trail. How, if you had any ideas how we could, improve, or what direction we should go, or, how you feel about it in general.
Well, I'm on the Parks Commission, and it's something that I believe all of us are for. Also coming from Illinois, and having lived a good portion of my life in Wisconsin, bike trails were a huge way to get around safely and much more cost effectively. So I'm very pro bike trail. I don't think it's dead in the water. I think we just need to keep going ahead and find out what those solutions are. I know that from discussions with the Park District, we run into issues with what kind of funding do we get, what do we do if Saugatuck doesn't like some of the solutions. There's got to be a way to find this out, because I get a lot of Chicago visitors that come up, and they're used to bike trails. And I don't ride a lot on the Blue Star, it's scary. So our tourism industry really depends on the bike trail. I think it's just a must-have, whatever it takes, we're working on it.
I don't know what was done at the beginning. I wasn't here at the very beginning of all the planning, but one idea I would have is to talk to the Illinois Prairie Association. There's a nonprofit group, as well as, you know, just to talk to them about funding, ideas. That's one thing that I would recommend. If I won the lottery, I'd build a bike path down Old Allegan Road, because where I live, it's very unsafe to leave by bike. I do see groups riding down Old Allegan Road, but there is no safe passage. So I hope you're right. I hope it's not dead in the water. I was just basing it on Jim's comments at the last meeting. But so I would be willing to serve in some capacity to see that it moves forward in some way.
If I understood your question, it was, what are things we could do better?
Right, yeah, that's,
So we're critiquing you. You know, I don't know that you're not doing it well. The one thing I bring is, I'm a lawyer, so you talked about the lawyer's bills and managing lawyers. I can manage lawyers. I think that's something that only a lawyer can do in some ways, because you can call baloney on things that are baloney and maybe help the decision-making process. I'm not saying you're not doing it well. I just think maybe it should be an issue that's taken, as we move forward, something that should be looked at. And I don't disagree with what these guys have said about the bike trail and other things that we should, because I believe my partner is a cyclist, and Old Allegan is horrible. I mean, it's dangerous. So biking is such I think it's popular here. I think it could be more so, and if whatever we could do to continue to press forward with trying to figure out a solution, that would be really great.
thank you.
Okay, so the next, the meeting has a question, I'll answer to Brenda. So, as a trustee, there's a chance that you may be faced with a decision where our neighboring communities, the city of Saugatuck, the village of Douglas, would like us to come together and all get together and put together a pool of money for maybe police coverage. Sounds like a great idea. Now, we currently are paid for that through our taxes, our Allegan County taxes. We get the county sheriffs. Just curious, what would you think of that type of a concept?
I think anytime we can collaborate with our neighboring cities and townships, we should do it. I think it's a great idea, and I think you have Natalie here now, who seems to be very good at collaboration and working with people. Here's what I would be for. I would be for looking, gathering all the facts, getting constituent input, looking at the pros and cons, and then making a decision. But I would love to see us do more collaboration with our neighboring cities and townships.
So in your neighborhood of Warm Weather, would you pay an extra fee maybe as a special assessment district for that type of coverage, or do you think you already pay enough through your taxes?
I think I would, because I would, definitely. I could ask my husband who's in the audience, but it feels, it's such a safe area. We don't lock our house. I shouldn't say that. But I don't really feel like there's...
You're on video.
I don't really feel like there's police protection or that they could get there very quickly. So I, for one, would definitely be for that and have a local presence. So yes, and I would be willing to pay.
And so both questions to you, Lori?
I think it's Mary.
Oh, Mary, sorry, Mary.
I'm all for trying to consolidate and become more efficient, especially when we're trying to preserve the tax dollars that our friends and neighbors are giving, entrusting to our care. I served once as a city attorney way back when for the city of Terre Haute, and we had to deal with a lot of budget issues. My entire career, even though I'm a lawyer, I've been mostly a moderator, a peacemaker. I became a settlement expert, and I love trying to figure out, the facts are always important, the devil's in the details, but in concept, I think there's got to be some ways to get the three communities to work more efficiently together when it comes to shared resources, and I, for one, would be a proponent of at least investigating what could be done and trying to lead a charge of trying to get some like-minded people from those other two places around the table to see if we can get it done.
And your thoughts on special assessment districts for funding that type of a thing versus a millage or?
Yeah, I think a special assessment, but again, it's a sales job. I mean, you have to prove the efficiency, and then it's basically a return on it. What's the ROI? I mean, you're going to invest in one time to make it happen, but in the end, you're going to save work with, or, communicate that message and explain pretty clearly to the township residents why we thought in the long run it'd be worth the investment.
I think anytime you can find a solution to, save each community, money that could be redirected in other beneficial ways to serve the community is a good thing. I think I would need to do a lot more research. I think I'd need to understand what happened between Douglas and Saugatuck and why there was a separation there. I'd like to understand how the different communities would be both assessed and how the coverage would be handled. I am glad it's a safe area because I'm not sure what the turnaround time would be if I needed help. So I think it could have a lot of really good potential, but just having read the articles in the newspaper and not really knowing all the details, I think there would definitely need to be some research. It would be valuable research to find out. If not now, it will need to come up at some point, I think, for cost savings and for the fact that we are sort of an overlapping type community. So I think it would be a good thing. I think it would be, before I would say, yeah, go ahead and assess, I'd have to say, well, what are we looking at? What's it going to cover? How is it going to be distributed? So there are things that would need to be researched. Because having witnessed the demise of the recycling program, which was a fairly nominal fee, I'd like to make sure that we've done all of our work to know what we're really talking about, to know if it's a fair assessment and if it's an assessment that we voted down or not, and that kind of thing.
Great. So now we have Abby, and we'll start with
Lori. With Lori. I know.
Yeah, I love
How would you involve residents, constituents in the decision-making process in the township? So how would you, garner their involvement, their input, and how would you use that in your decision-making?
Well, for one, I don't see myself as a Lone Ranger, but having helped the Parks Commission try and get a survey of park usage and what kind of, perfect world, if we could dream up parks and what would they look like and what would they have and how difficult it can be, I think we can't just rely on social media. We've got a lot of lovely spots around town, and I think, having a day in the park where we meet your board or, tables where we can each take notes and sort of set up some kind of regular accessibility time that's a lot less threatening than maybe coming up to a microphone, and have there be much more town hall type, community type thing. I think it's small enough where anybody who would come and talk to us might feel like they're actually heard. I've met with some politicians and I don't always feel that. But I think we're small enough, and it's important to all of us equally because we share this area that might be a potential way. But accessibility and making sure we get to other people, where there would be people who couldn't make it out that way, there's always taking it to other different areas of the township. So, nothing beats face-to-face.
I thought a lot about that question, just given, how many people come to these meetings, and the last PC meeting I thought would be out the door. I don't know if I have an answer. One thing we used to do in a couple of my positions, we used to believe that if you feed them, they will come. And I thought about having some type, as you said, open houses or town meetings, feed them. I don't know if the township has ever used something like SurveyMonkey. I realize that's electronic, and I agree with you that face-to-face is best. But, so those are some ideas that just immediately come to mind. I also would, people I know, I have no problem picking up the phone or texting or however they prefer to be communicated with, calling and talking to people to see what they think, depending on what the issue is. But it would be wonderful if we could do town hall meetings where, do something that would make it more inviting for people to come. So have given it a lot of thought. I don't have an exact answer, but I have lots of ideas.
I like some of the ideas. I have to admit, one of the businesses I help run is a digital marketing agency, so, and we specialize in social media. But I think social media, it's one thing to post something, just a date and time of a meeting. With as much social media that's out there for the consumer to consume, those sorts of posts don't get a lot of attention. There is a way that we could be a little more proactive in what we're posting to clarify the real purpose and do it in ways that are not intimidating to people. Maybe a town hall where all they need to come is refreshments will be served and there'll be a presentation of some kind. And do a series of them, some during the week, some maybe even on a weekend when people are working, can't get here. I mean, for me personally, I own my own business, but a lot of people couldn't make it here at a 6 o'clock meeting on a weekday. So becoming more flexible in the timing of those things, setting them out in a series, and coming up with a really concrete, pretty easy to execute social media play, I think would be a good way to reach people, and do it in a way that's kind of fun and with graphics and things that aren't that's not too fancy, but at least are more projecting a message to people and actually engaging with them about issues that they should care about. And there's easy ways in social media to figure out using Saugatuck Township and just blast things out to those folks. So that would be just an idea off the top of my head. So I'd be a proponent of that.
Want to just open up for general questions at all, or?
I think so. I had two other questions, but seriously, you've answered them in your answer to other questions.
Yeah, you really have.
I'd be tweaking them or repeating, so.
I guess
Again,
we wanted to open it up to if there's other things that you had prepared in your mind to share with us or that you want us to know. I'd be open to hearing that now.
Absolutely.
Whose turn? Brenda's turn. Miss
You know, you guys, I said this to Chris when I talked to him on the phone, you guys have a champagne problem. You have 3 great candidates. So other than that, off the top of my head, I can't think of anything that I haven't said, except that we've been in the community forever, our family's been here. Steve and I have been married exactly the same as Stacy and Keith, 43 years. Do I have it right?
One day difference.
1 day difference.
43 years.
So just that's just personal stuff. 6 grandchildren. Not here though, 3 are in California and 3 in Wisconsin. So other than that, I think we've covered. I mean, you really did hit on all the current issues. So.
I agree. It's a really interesting conundrum you have. I think that though I've learned a lot and that I care about this community and I feel very well rooted, regardless of what your decision is, I plan on continuing to work with community issues and learn more about the different boards and how they work and attend meetings and things like that. I think on my right and left are 2 extremely qualified ladies that might be able to provide the board with additional expertise that is really going to make this a phenomenal board. So however you decide, I'm comfortable with that, and I don't envy you your decision.
It's hard.
Well, I'm going to just echo what you just said, which is
We knew it was going to come to this.
you guys are both really care about the community that comes through, and you've been involved in it for a long time, longer than I have, admittedly. So we all have different aspects. It just really depends on the skills that you think will fit you best at this point in time. I, too, will not stop. I'm going to become involved. I'm not going to sit on the sidelines anymore in terms of the needs we have in this community and beyond it. So if I'm not the right choice, I'm totally fine with that. I'll find another place to try to help out with my skill set. So I appreciate the time you guys have spent. I've talked to all of you, and I know you've talked to each of them, so I've spent a lot of time outside of your normal stuff that you do to make this happen. So anyway, thank you.
The only other one thing I want to clarify is you may be aware we're in litigation with Saugatuck Coastal Alliance. Are any of you board members currently?
I am.
You you are, so you would have to resign that before we could appoint you. Okay.
Is there an open board, additional board that I'm trying to remember, like I'm on the fire board, you're on the roads. What board would they be? Our board, what would they be?
This person would take over the road committee work from Abby, who's just dying to get rid of it.
Oh, okay.
I thought I explained that.
Where do we put that?
I think I explained that. Well, I didn't.
You guys
They
might,
are amazing people over there at the road commission, though, they're very,
Yeah, it's
Well,
really,
you do have interest in that, actually, so,
well, I think the three of you are a strong argument for us considering becoming a charter township, because then we have a larger board, so.
any other questions? Anybody else?
Can I say one more thing that we forgot? You asked about, different issues. We didn't talk at all about fire department. I know they're kind of hanging in the balance, for us to review some things that happened in the last couple of years, and you all, with the, International Fire Code and that kind of stuff, so I did also want to mention that. We did at one time own a small paving company, but I don't want to be paving any roads. Didn't mind getting involved, but just don't want to get, play with asphalt or anything like this.
All right, thanks, ladies.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So, we talked about, let's make sure we still want to do that. We talked about going ahead and proceeding with the appointment tonight. Do we have any feelings on that? Do we want to proceed with the appointment tonight? Do we have enough information? I think I do.
Definitely. Yeah, we have to move.
So I will, I'll entertain a motion, to appoint somebody to the trustee position.
Okay.
oh, boy. Don't everybody.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Does
Boy.
anyone have a hat? Can we put it?
Yeah, because everybody's excellent, and.
I mean, it is, I'll just say, I'll go ahead and start out. I was very impressed with Mary. I think she brings business, legal, she owns property in the township. She's a renter. She rents properties. I just can go on and on about the qualifications that she brings. In addition to being a city attorney, I can see that being very beneficial. We've had to lean heavily on our attorneys without, a manager, which has helped a lot, by the way. Thank you. So that could definitely help. And I would put the motion out to appoint Mary Fechtig to the open trustee position. Is there a second? There being none, we'll take another motion then.
I make a motion to appoint Brenda Marcy as a trustee.
I'll second that.
Discussion.
I've worked with Brenda in different aspects, and that's the only reason I'm leaning towards her, because I know she does her work, her homework, she researches. I'm sure everyone else does too, but just versus the unknown and the known. I mean, that's where I'm coming from.
I agree, and I hope that all candidates stay engaged. I know Lori currently is
really-
somewhat beneficial to have her on the Parks Commission.
We'll make sure of that.
Yes, definitely.
Any other discussion?
It's been said, but I've honestly agonized over this. This is a difficult decision to make. I appreciate all of you, and hope that you do stay involved. You are overqualified for these positions, and we're just very fortunate to have you here. And you all bring a set of really unique skills and aptitudes or whatever experiences to the table. So thank you for stepping up and being considered and going through this process, and we hope to see more of you all.
Any other discussion? There being none, let's go with the roll call vote. Now you could call the roll.
Tomrick?
Yes.
Aldrich?
Yes.
Rory?
Yes.
Bigford? Yes.
And now we'll take a slight break and go ahead and ask Brenda to come up. And we'll have her sworn in, and she can take a seat. We'll get a chair up here.
Congratulations.
You can move my stuff in.
Okay, wanna move down a little?
Sorry, I couldn't, I guess I could have redone this one first and third. Ready? Yes. Okay. Now raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear or affirm. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States. That I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this state and the Constitution of this state. And that I will faithfully perform the duties of the office of trustee. And that I will faithfully perform the duties of the office of trustee in and for the Township of Saugatuck, in and for the Township of Saugatuck, County of Allegan, and State of Michigan, according to the best of my ability, so help me God. According to the best of my ability, so help me God. Okay? Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we'll resume, moving on to item B, which is the medical marijuana ordinance. As we've been getting from Natalie, and I greatly appreciate the administrative reports that she's put together because it really helps us get prepared. We have before us the Planning Commission's results from the public hearing where they considered the medical marijuana ordinance at their meeting on February 25th. They had come to the conclusion at the end of that meeting that they made some changes to the initial draft ordinance that include growth facilities as a special use approval. The growth facilities are held in the I-1 Industrial District. The grow facilities requiring a 500-foot buffer from lot lines when bordered by an existing residential use, and that grow facilities require public utility water and sewer connections. They did also make some recommendations to make provisioning centers require a special use approval as well, and our attorney has revised those drafts and those changes are reflected in the draft before us. So the recommendation from the Planning Commission is that the Township Board consider and approve medical marijuana ordinance as presented, consisting of two parts. There will be amendments to Section 40-1046, the Table of Uses, and to include the allowable uses. There will also be an addition of new Section 40-746 to Article 7 of the ordinance, and then the addition of Chapter 5, which is the policing side of it. So that being the case, I would motion that we adopt the ordinance for medical marijuana from the Planning Commission. And would the police be a second adoption? I think there's two adoptions here. So the first one is for the ordinance to amend the code entitled Marijuana Facilities and Establishments. This will prohibit recreational marijuana establishments and allow certain medical marijuana facilities operating in accordance with state law. And this will be approved by a roll call vote, and I would motion that we adopt this ordinance as presented by the Planning Commission. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? There being none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll, including the new trustee.
Okay. Bigford? Yes. Marcy? Yes. Helmrich?
Yes.
Aldrich?
Yes.
Rohrig?
Yes. Motion adopted. Ordinance adopted. The next is part of the ordinance. Is this the table? Does that come with the table? Two parts was for inside.
You've got chapter 5, and you've got the table of uses.
Okay, this is for the table of uses, where it calls out special use for these two applications. And I would move that we take the Planning Commission's recommendation and adopt the Section 40-1046 table of uses. That will be done by a roll call vote as well. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
I just want to make a comment, because I think everyone knows there are 3 types of medical marijuana licensing that have been approved, and the 2 that Chris has just pointed out that require special use permission. The 3rd license is for the testing and provisioning centers, and those will be by right. They do not need special application.
Any other discussion? There being none, we'll call the roll.
Hallmark,
Yes.
Aldrich,
Yes.
Rolling,
Yes.
Bickford, yes, Marcy?
Yes.
Adopted. Okay, next we have the Public Schools memorandum of fee for collection for summer taxes.
Yes, and this is strictly a pro forma perfunctory thing. The board must approve. We have a memorandum of agreement that requires my signature so we can collect the summer taxes for the Saugatuck Public School System. So I would like to make a motion that we approve this memorandum of agreement.
Do I have a second? I'll second. Any discussion? All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Yes?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Okay, next we have the amendment to consolidated fee schedule. This is where on an annual basis we want to take a look at our fees, make sure they're correct, adjust accordingly. And there's a couple of changes that Manager Dean has found and made corrections to. In addition to that, one of our inspectors' fees have gone up for site plan reviews. So does someone want to put a motion on the board to adopt that's got a date on it. Adopt the consolidated, Saugatuck Township consolidated fee schedule dated March 6, 2019.
I move to adopt the consolidated fee schedule, dated March 6, 2019.
I'll second. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor, state by saying yes.
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 Opposed, no. Yes, motion carried. Authorization for road projects and dust control. I'll let the current road chair who's about to pass the baton go ahead and go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Hold on, let me get to it. The 2019 project list includes 2.48 miles of resurfacing. Part of the packet, it talks about the 4 different areas that need to be resurfaced. This was stuff that was kind of decided long ago, and it appears that there was, due diligence was done. So we just need to go ahead and, in order for them to start the work, to go ahead and approve it.
I would move that we go ahead and authorize the supervising clerk to sign the the township work order for construction and special maintenance on public roads as presented.
I'll second.
So what will happen is we'll go ahead and we'll approve this. They're going to go out to bids in March. When the bids come in, we'll have to select the low bid, which we want to do. At that point, we move forward. We did check the numbers here, and it's all within our current certified funds in that account, so we should be okay. So we should go ahead and move ahead. So all those in favor, state by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed, no. Motion carried. And we'll move on to the last leg, which is committee reports, starting with the Planning Commission.
Planning Commission met twice in February because the January meeting was canceled due to weather. The first meeting on February 11th, one of the highlights I felt was, and Brenda mentioned this, I believe, was very good discussion and interaction between from the old Allegan residents group that lived near the sand mine, and the principals from top grade, the owners were here, and it was good to see that. It was a strong interaction, and they kind of kept meeting after the official meeting, so that all bodes well. The other issue that came up that was delayed. And last week's meeting, the landowners and the potential developer of the parcel also on Old Allegan Road that are looking at potentially applying to put in a luxury RV park. They were here, they presented. There were several members of the audience that spoke against such a potential plan, and it was our first time to kind of hear what they might do. They have not formally applied. All they brought at that meeting last week was a pencil drawing of where the lots might go. So there's a lot more to be heard from on that sense, but I was proud the Planning Commission sort of got in front of this, and also I'm very happy to report that this was finalized, I guess, yesterday, but we meaning the Planning Commission, Natalie has gone ahead and set a date and time. There will be an open public meeting here in this room. It will not be a formal commission meeting. There will be no more than 2 planning commissioners present to preserve the Open Meetings Act. And we've already targeted actual neighbors who will be invited to attend this meeting and hear more about the potential plans.
But anyone can come.
What's that?
Anyone can come.
Anyone's welcome to come.
Right.
Yeah.
And obviously, another big issue last week was the finalization and making amendments